At 72 years old, Eleanor Whitmore had learned the hardest truth of life: when a woman grows old, the world slowly pretends she no longer exists. She lived in a small white house on Maple Street in Ohio. The house was old, just like her, but it stood strong-weathered, yet proud. Every morning, Eleanor swept the porch carefully, even though no one visited. It was her quiet rebellion against being forgotten. Once, Eleanor had been the center of her family's world. A loving wife. A devoted mother. A woman whose kindness filled every room she entered. Now, she was just an old woman people spoke about, not to. And she had no idea that soon, she would become someone they would fear. Thomas Whitmore, Eleanor's husband of 45 years, died on a cold October evening. One moment he was laughing at the dinner table, the next he was gasping for air. Eleanor still remembered the sound of his plate shattering as he collapsed. She screamed his name until her throat burned. At the funeral, her son Michael held her hand tightly. "I won't let anything happen to you, Mom," he promised. "You'll never be alone." Eleanor believed him. Why wouldn't she didn't notice how his wife, Karen, stood a little apart, eyes calculating, lips tight, already measuring what grief could give her. That promise would not survive time. Karen Whitmore was not cruel in obvious ways. She smiled. She spoke softly in public. She hugged Eleanor when others were watching. But behind closed doors, her voice sharpened. "You're too slow. You don't understand money. You should be grateful." Karen treated Eleanor like an obligation, not a human being. Michael noticed, but he stayed silent. And silence, Eleanor would later learn, is just another form of betrayal. After Thomas's death, Michael suggested something that sounded reasonable. "Mom, let's put the house in my name," he said. "It's just for legal safety." Eleanor hesitated. Karen smiled sweetly. "It's still your home. Trust is dangerous when mixed with love." Eleanor signed the papers. She didn't know she had just signed away the last piece of her freedom. Months later, Michael returned with more documents. "This is just in case something happens," he said. Karen leaned forward. "It's for your own good." The words "power of attorney" sat heavily on the page. Eleanor felt uneasy, but fear whispered louder than doubt. If she didn't sign, they talked about nursing homes. With trembling hands, she signed again. That night, Eleanor cried silently in her bedroom. Something precious had been taken from her, and she couldn't name it yet. 2 months later, Eleanor was moved into an assisted living facility. Her house was sold. Her belongings were boxed. Her memories were erased from the walls. Karen took the money. Michael took the comfort of not feeling guilty. They visited once. Karen stood near the door. "We'll come again soon." They never did. Loneliness became Eleanor's daily companion, but loneliness also gives you time to think. And Eleanor began to remember everything. Eleanor noticed missing money. Old bank statements. Unexplained withdrawals. Karen's signature where Eleanor's should have been. She started listening instead of speaking. Watching instead of trusting. Her pain slowly hardened into something else. Not hatred. Purpose. People thought Eleanor was weak. Staff ignored her questions. Family forgot her existence. But Eleanor's mind was still sharp. She began writing things down. Dates. Names. Amounts. Every betrayal left a paper trail. And Eleanor Whitmore was done being silent. When Karen finally visited after 6 months, she smiled politely. "You look okay," Karen said. Eleanor smiled back. But this smile was different. It was the kind of smile a hunter gives before the trap closes. Karen didn't notice. No one ever noticed the old woman. Revenge does not always arrive screaming. Sometimes, it arrives with patience. Eleanor requested legal help. She requested copies of documents. She played confused. She played weak. And everyone underestimated her. That was their biggest mistake.